we are so lucky to have each other. 10 years ago, this didn't exist. And for hundreds and hundreds of other genes, this does not exist. So as painful as this disease is, at least we have this room, and we're sharing air with Yuri and Ali and Camp 4 and other industry friends who are in the room, looking at our kids, learning about our kids, and thinking just as hard as we are about what you just said, biomarkers, endpoints, how are we going to measure this? What about seizures? It is so good not to be alone. So you're all about to go back to real life. We're going to have dinner after this, and what do I want to leave you with? The first thought I really want to land is that the work we do takes time. We do not do 3-month projects or 6 months projects or 9 months projects. We are in the midst of multiple multi-year projects, right? And it is hard for us, frankly, to just put all of that on one piece of paper. Much less for me to explain to you that we are in the midst of doing a natural history study, clinical trial preparation, various scientific projects, staffing a biobank, working on endpoints, working with Beacon for biosignals, working on our biobank for biomarkers. And that's just off the top of my head, right? The work we do takes time. And I start with that because some people come in and they're very twitchy. They're like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? What can I do? And I'm like, you just got to understand you're in the right place. And there's a lot going on, courtesy of the hard work of Catherine and Virginie and Marta and Suzanne and the rest of the board and the rest of the leadership who are doing their damnedest to keep all of these trains running, right? And so I just want you guys, that's why I did that slide in the last chat with the timeline. Like we're in the midst of a multi-year effort. And I know some of you got diagnosed recently and you're like, what's going on? Tell me everything I need to know. And unfortunately, my message to you is, here's the information, there's a website. Now you're one of us. So you got the handout, now it's time to work. Because the work we do takes time, there's a ton of it, and we need to work together to get it done, right? And remember, the goal is better medicines. I made that point already. And the work we're asking you to do is really essential, right? So my catchphrase is, I want your blood, I want your time, and I want your money. It's not A, B, or C, I want all of it, right? Why do I want your blood? Why do we have a bunch of kids and siblings and parents walking around with a band on their arm? The same reason, well, for a variety of reasons, right? At the minimum, we want a biobank full of plasma so that researchers can use it. We also use that blood sometimes to make cell lines. Some of the cell lines that we made years ago were used by that gentleman in the back row, which were used to build the SYNGAP program at Camp 4, right? It's taken years, but that was a damn good investment of someone's pain and suffering. We're in the midst of a project with Combined Brain. So Syngap Research Fund is a patient advocacy group, obviously for SYNGAP1. We are part of a much bigger patient advocacy group called Combined Brain. Combined Brain covers 160 different patient advocacy groups and is led by an amazing woman who unfortunately I think we didn't hear from today. But they're awesome. They are a multi-million-dollar organization doing incredible work, commanding the respect of funders and industry. And they recently, by the way, hired a CSO who is sitting right there. Stand up, Lindsay. And they hired her because she's brilliant, and she's hardworking, and she's a rare disease mom. And we're very lucky to have one of ours in there. But through Combined Brain, and I could like tell you all day all the amazing things that Combined Brain has given us, but one of the things they did is, Terry Jo texted me a few months ago, hey, I'm applying for this thing, and you have to collect 20 samples, and would you do it? If we get him, can we? I was like, yes, whatever you want, Terry Jo. And so like last week, she's like, hey, we got it. Startup calls tomorrow, which is about how Terry Jo operates. We get on a startup call, and it's basically like, they will fund it, they will fund the collection of 20 samples. They will then take that blood, right? So the blood goes from you to the biobank, and then in the biobank, the blood is analyzed. Essentially, think of it, the blood is turned into a bunch of data, transcriptome, all the omics, and if that means nothing to you, a bunch of data. that is then going to be available to be shared with industry. So that when industry says, hey, we have a question we want to answer about whatever it is they're thinking of, we don't have to say, let's go get 20 patients and let's get the files and let's send them to the company. We can be like, yeah, here's the data, right? And that saves time, and time is brain. So when we ask you to do these pokes, we're not just trying to get our blood bank to be bigger than someone else's blood bank, although I do like to brag. We have a pretty big blood bank. I want the biggest data set. We are here competing for the attention, just to be blunt, competing for the attention of the smartest researchers and the best companies to work on our disease. And the way we win that battle is by being as prepared and as collaborative as possible, right? So when we ask you to do things, it's exhausting and you're tired and you're done. But let me tell you, this is how we get it done. And we're not asking you to do this to see how many hoops we can make you jump through. I want your time, right? I want you to help as an engaged member of the community. I want you to tell us what's going on. I want you to pass our messages on. I want you to repost our content. I want you to tell your family about it. I want you to tell your friends about it. I want your OT and your ST and your PT and your neuro and your doctor and every single clinician who touches your kid to know what Cure SYNGAP1 is. Take a bracelet for them to know what SYNGAP1 is. And I want you to ask them, have you ever recommended genetic testing? Do you have any kids who look like my kid? I want you all to annoy the hell out of every clinician you touch. That's called advocacy, right? That's called spreading the word. We all know how hard it was for our kids to get diagnosed. We have to help other kids get diagnosed faster. So there's no sideline version of this life. Right? If you want to go home and sit in a corner and say, woe is me, and just suffer alone, it's your choice. But like, you can choose hope or despair at any point in time, and despair sucks. And the way you choose hope is you believe that a better future is possible, and you work like hell on it. And part of that is by letting everyone you know about Syngap, about Cure SYNGAP1, and looking for those other patients, right? So I want your time. I want you to be involved with us, in touch with us, talking about Syngap. Every state has a state ambassador. Help them. Connect with them. That's kind of where we start as volunteers, right? And then if you have the bandwidth, and I fully understand, some people are treading water, some people are underwater. Some kids are harder than others. Some people have more time. Some people are doing this alone. But some of us have parents and grandparents and sisters and brothers, some of whom are here, and I really applaud the extended family who jumps in. Get them to help. We even have where are you, Sarah? We even have a sister in the room who's going to study neuroscience, right? That's when it happens. That's when we say to our families, we have figured out that we are fighting this battle for a long time. And we need you to help, because the alternative sucks. I'm really tired. The alternative sucks. I mean, I'll never forget. What is Tony 11? My parents came to my house like 5 years ago. My mom walked in. My mom's English. She's always telling you what you just did wrong and how to do it better. And she tried to Tony, and Tony just bit her. I don't even know how many grandchildren my mother has. There's a lot of grandchildren. None of them have bitten her. She was pissed. I think she's still pissed. I mean, the damage this can do to the family if we're not honest with it. And you tell your parents, look at this cute baby's got a serious disease. It's going to get worse, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, just work harder. That is their instinct. And it's their instinct for two reasons. First of all, parenting is hard and they want you to just figure it out. Second of all, like damn near all of us, at first you just don't understand what this disease is all about, right? So you might have come here for help, but I'm telling you what you need to do. And that's why a lot of people can't stand me, but this is real life. If you want to go home and sit in the corner and be sad, that's your option. But if you want a better life for your kid and you want a better medicine and you want to grow this community, the way we do it is we work. I don't have a better answer for you, and my story's not going to change. And the way we work is by telling our family and our loved ones, this is real life, and we need you to help, right? Just like I'm saying it to you. And the other people, and this was one of the hardest things I'm going to ask you to do. You have to go to your highly trained, very qualified, very confident doctors and help them understand that they don't understand SYNGAP1 and beat it into their skulls, right? You need to recruit doctors to our cause. They need to figure out that this is a serious disease and it's their job to help you. And if they can't figure it out, fire them. I don't care what your insurance, just get another one, right? We have to have, all of our children need a team. We are the captains, there is the clinical team, there's the family team, there are the caregivers. But you need to build that team, and if someone's not up to snuff, get rid of them. I want your blood, I want your time, I want your money. We cannot do this alone, right? There are a few families, my own included, who have done a lot. Suzanne is in here, she's done a lot. There's other families, Julie with her fundraiser. Nancy, Sarah, you got to meet Nancy. It's like our chief sibling over here. And I always get choked up when I look at the siblings because we all think about our other kid, right? Some of us have done a significant gifts to the organization, and that's great that we can afford that, and we will do it as long as we can. But we still need every family at whatever level is possible to be fundraising. We need every family at whatever level is possible to be fundraising. If for you $100 is meaningful, I want it. If for you $10,000 is meaningful, I want it. And if you're not hitting up family and friends for the next 3 weeks, except for maybe, because Brent's like, careful what you say to Suzanne. He's like, I got to live with this. Whatever Mike said, I got to deal with it for next week. Except for maybe Suzanne, who's already done so much. Everybody else, we've got to be on message. My child has a terrible disease. A better future is possible, but it's going to take money. What's the money for, Mike? Camp 4 is here. They got tons of money. No, you have no idea what this business is like, right? We are funding a natural history study. We are funding science. We are funding travel for families to the natural history study, which I will come back to. Let me talk a little bit more about that. The funding the science, I just want to elaborate on that. If you think about the young woman yesterday who spoke about vasculature, does anyone remember her? Glasses. We had some giants in this room. Ingrid Sheffer, Danny Andrade, Rick Huganier. These people they do not need salary support. They are very important people, and they're fine. But at the end of the day, Baptiste Lacoste, who was not here yesterday in Canada, he's thinking about some really important things that can help us treat aspects of our children that haven't been treated. He couldn't be here because he's doing 5 other things, but when he came to us and said, I'm thinking about Syngap, and we talked and we got excited about it and we agreed to fund it, he hired that young woman. And she is now working on the vasculature, and we saw some of our kids on those dots, right? If you know the genetic mutations, some of us knew exactly who was where on that chart. Now think about her. Baptiste, we have a great relationship with him due to Catherine's great work. It doesn't matter. Same with Helen Wilsey. There are some PIs who are very close to us. Maybe they will get a grant, and maybe they will fund some people from external sources. In the current environment, that is a bigger maybe. But at the end of the day, this work is years and years of work, and these postdocs have to pay rent and have to eat and need benefits. Right? No one's going to do this out of the goodness of their heart. And this gets back to this notion of competition. If we want Baptiste and his postdocs to work on us, we have to basically say, here's some money, we fund them for 1 or 2 years. If they come back with crap, we say, thanks, it's been fun, and they're done. And if they come back with good stuff and next steps, as Helen Wilsey has done again and again and again, for instance, we are very happy to fund them. Because when you fund someone the first time, they got to start up and figure out where everything is and start thinking about Syngap. Helen and Baptiste and other people, they have Syngap cooking in their lab. The mice, the fish, the whatever, the frogs, the cell lines, they're sitting right there. And we have this chance to keep feeding this incredible team that we have built. There are postdocs and when you look at her, and the reason I'm focusing on that young woman from Baptiste Lab is she's young. Thank you very much. The reason I'm thinking about Leah is she's young. Look at the kids in this room. Rick Huganier and Danny and Ingrid, they're going to be retired But Leia's got some decades in her. And that's what we need. We need to be thinking strategically. Remember the first thing I said. We are in a multi-year game. We need to get the youngest, brightest sparks that are in labs right now completely embedded in this community. We do not have drinks on Wednesday night and Thursday night just because it's fun. Because we want them to connect. We want them to feel like this is the community where they can grow up and do research. And they can see us and see our patients. But that takes money. So the money is for the science, the money is for the family support, and the money is for the natural history study. Let me talk about the natural history study and the clinical trials. I know I'm a bit dramatic right now, but it kind of feels like do or die to me, right? We are in a do or die moment, and let me tell you why I feel that way. CHOP got a grant 2 years ago. We're at end of year 2 with CHOP. 2.5. CHOP got a grant from an angel somewhere, who I do not know. Well, I have an idea, but anyway. To work on SYNGAP and STX. That was a 5-year grant. When we write the history of how we've cured this disease, that grant will be pivotal because you have Ingo and the Genius clinical team, and you have Ben Prosser and the Genius science team all working in the same building, right? That 5-year natural history study is not cheap. And that is the beating heart of our natural history study. We fund travel support, we fund Stanford, we fund Colorado as bolt-ons, but it all goes through CHOP. We have 2.5 years left of CHOP, round numbers. And if that angel gives them more money and they continue, wonderful. Or if there's so many clinical trials going on that industry wants to sustain it, wonderful. But none of that is given. What we know right now is we have 2.5 years left of CHOP cranking out data. And I'll tell you about this promise meeting this morning. I hadn't had enough coffee. Like, when we kicked off that meeting, I introduced 4 companies and clinicians from 3 of the best children's hospitals in America to each other to sit and talk together about natural history study design, biomarkers, endpoints, and to look at the data and to grill each other and figure out how we can make this better. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And I'll tell you right now, we saw a few things where we're like, oh, we need to push more on that, or what about this, or why isn't this in there? And there's always growing pains. That's the thing. You don't just like turn on a natural history study. It's not like you go to Costco and buy an extra large natural history study. Like, this is getting some very smart and complicated institutions to work together. But I will tell you, one thing that jumped out at me is the number of participants in the 12 to 16 bucket. The age breakdown was like, aw. And I'm like, where are those patients? And I know exactly where those patients are. They're at home with a kid that they can't pick up anymore who's having a temper tantrum and they can't figure out what the hell to do with them. Or they're chasing them as they elope down the street. Or they're hoping to God that they don't, or that all the doors are locked. And then I call them and say, hey, do you want to go to CHOP? It's going to be amazing. They're like, yeah, it's going to be amazing in the airport when TSA takes me down. No, I'm not going anywhere. But so that's a problem that we need to solve, right? Because that natural history study data is what URI needs to go to the FDA, to go to the European regulators, to go to the Australians, to go to the Argentines, to go to wherever the hell he's going to go. Sorry, Peyton just walked in and now I'm cursing. And say, this is the natural history of the disease. This is what the disease looked like. So the do or die is really, we have this insane opportunity that I'm so grateful I'm not paying for all of it. We're not paying for all of it because it would cost a fortune, you guys, to get ourselves to CHOP. And what I'm going to say right now is, if you are a family who's like, Mike, I don't think I can do it, or I can't do it again, or I can't do it every 6 months, I realize there are some problems that we can't solve, but if we can help in terms of plane tickets, if you need an extra person to go, if you whatever, again, pick up the phone, call Lauren, email me, email Lauren, email Virginie, and be like, this is the problem I've got. Because it's do or die. We need to fill every slot in that study. We need to get as much data as possible so that because as painful as it is the most efficient way to get things done. Yuri put the Stoke slide up here. Is Yuri still with us? No. When Stoke figured out they had a molecule to make a drug for Dravet, they looked at doing a phase 1 study, and then they said, okay, show me the natural history study. They weren't happy with the natural history study, so they didn't start a trial. And instead, they did run their own natural history study for 2 years. Could you imagine sitting in this room having Yuri tell you, we have treated monkeys, we have cured Syngap in so many goddamn mice, but we'll be with you in 2 years after this natural history study. We would all take turns losing our minds. But instead, by doing this bigger, broad, promised natural history study, that data is available to Yuri's group, it's available to all the companies on this sponsor slide. This is how we get it done, by getting in front of it, because we are in a multi-year parallel project that is really hard to appreciate the complexity of. Like everybody walks out of this conference today with a headache. That's why there's ibuprofen on the table. All that means is you're a normal human being. This is complicated, right? And we don't bore you with all the details, because we can barely keep them straight, to be honest, but we tell you what's absolutely critical for you to do, and that is to go to this natural history study at least every year, if not every 6 months, and get your data in there. And by the way, you're not just doing me a favor when you do this. There are hundreds of neurologists in America who do not have a clue how to treat SYNGAP1. There are 3 neurologists in America, well, it's more like 5 or 6, but the 3 big ones are Gillian McKee at CHOP, Megan Abbott at Colorado, and Juliette Knowles at Stanford. There's also Ingo at CHOP, and there's also Chrisley Messer at Stanford, but these people are pros, and they really care. I think I said this the other day. These people could be making a lot more money working half as hard, right? So they're brilliant, they're great at places, they work with us, they really give a damn. And not only will they collect this data with a level of rigor, this morning I was blown away when I understood all the checks and balances and data cleaning and madness that they do. But they will say, why are you on this drug? Or why aren't you on this drug? Or why did your neurologist do this? Or do you need this letter? And then they will follow up and support you with that. So you should absolutely see going to the natural history study as a way to help the community and a way to help yourself by getting world-class clinical care. These people are best of the best. And then the other great thing about the natural history study and all these different companies is one of my sayings, and I have a friend at Stoke, and we say this to each other a lot, competition is good for the patient. Competition is good for the patient. Having Stoke and Camp 4 and the other companies in the room this morning looking at each other, talking about SYNGAP1 clinical trials, that's good, because they all go back to their motherships and say, guys, we got to move faster. That's exactly what we want, right? That is the game we are playing. We are trying to say, Syngap is a target you can go after. This community will move mountains for you. You should all go, and then we just let market forces drive them and drive forward. And then bonus points to Camp 4 for the courage to lead. The other reason I think do or die is maybe not too dramatic is once we finish phase 1, we're going to phase 2. I mean, 1-2, when we're going to phase 3. And then if the trial goes well, there's going to be another trial. After we do phase 1, 2, 3 with protein truncating, we'll probably have a missense cohort or a whatever cohort, whatever we left out before. And if a trial doesn't meet endpoints, they're going to study it, they're going to figure out why not and what happened, whatever. But here's the rub, guys. If there's a trial and it doesn't enroll, that's a failed trial, right? Trials will hit the results, trials will not hit the results. We'll learn something from both of those. If they spend the money, and round numbers, I think these trials, you should be thinking a few $100,000 per spot. You can correct me. But $300,000 to $400,000 to $500,000 a spot is what you should be thinking for the cost of these ASO trials. The small molecules, hopefully cheaper. He's good if he wants to come up. Yeah, I've got a couple. So where was I? Competition. Wait. A failed trial is a trial that doesn't enroll. A failed trial is a trial that doesn't enroll, which is why I'm so crisp on this point. If there's a clinical trial, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your kids, and you owe it to the community to make sure that if you qualify, you jump in. And if that creates a financial hardship, if that creates some other life impossibility, call us, let's see if we can't figure it out. Because as soon as a Syngap trial fails, guess what? There are 900 other people waiting for that trial. There's like 4 genes, there's 4 diseases, Rett, Dravet, Angelman, who are the big kids. They've been around for a long time. Then there's CDKL5 and someone else, SCN2A, maybe 8A. That's what Kelly's kid has. And then there's like this next generation. It's US, STXBP1, SLC6A1 next door. And then there's approximately 940 other rare diseases whose name looks like a bad license plate, right? And they are all desperate to get on the phone with Yuri and talk about a precision therapy. So as soon as SYNGAP1 fails to fill a trial, that phone's gonna light up. I don't want to be too dramatic, but market forces are market forces. All right? So we really are in a moment where we have to both be thinking about the natural history study and getting ready for clinical trials. This one's cute. And I want to connect the dots there. If you're not sure you can do a natural history study, you're probably going to really struggle when you think about doing a clinical trial. So one way to think about this is let me do some of this natural history study, both because it's going to get me great clinical care, it's going to share great data, but then I'm going to be in that flow and I'm going to understand what it means to get to a clinical center, do all this poking and prodding, and maybe I'll be less scared of it. So really, the next few years, and when I'm saying this to you, it's not because I want you and you and you and you to go to a clinical trial, although I do. But I want you to go back and talk about it on the group. I want you to, when the next time you're with Syngap families, be it at a get-together or whatever, and by the way, have more get-togethers. If you have not met all the Syngap families who live within 50 miles of your house, invite them over, right? Build this community, connect with the other families, and talk about this. If there was a trial tomorrow, would you do it? Because you guys right now, after that truly exceptional presentation by Yuri in these past 2 days, you are currently the leading experts of what's going on in Syngap land. And you get to share this knowledge. I talked about funding the team. 2 more points, and then I'll take questions. When you support SRF, you're supporting a lot of things. We support families. You've all been there. You've all, hopefully, some of us got diagnosed and went to the internet and found organizations and people I won't name. But most of you got diagnosed, went to the internet, and got on the phone with Lauren or Virginia or Corey. Where's Corey? Stand up. If you've talked to Corey, give her a round of applause. Believe me, you're so lucky you talked to her and not me first. There's a few people who talk to me and they're still traumatized, but that is work, right? When you reach out to us, we write your name down in a secure database, we contact Corey, we check on you, we make sure you're okay. That's time and money. We share information. There's a huge advocacy effort. There are times when parents have not been getting the care they've needed, and I've been like, where are you? Oh, I know that doctor. And I call him. I'm like, why the hell hasn't this kid had an EEG? I don't do this a lot, but there are a few times where it's been so egregious, I've had to. We have a parent right now who's asking us to testify in court about behaviors because someone's suing their child. Right? We got to figure out the right way to answer. And I was talking to CHOP about that this morning, and they're like, tell her to call us. We write letters all the time. I'm like, writing, they want you to go before a judge. But like the advocacy on behalf of our families and the people who aren't here is not trivial. And then that's not even touching the federal advocacy, right? Once these drugs are approved, we all have battles to fight at the state level for funding. And today at the federal level, we have battles to fight about funding science. That's all things that Virginia and I are like looking at each other like, why? I had 5 things to do today. I've been on the phone since I woke up. What's going on? And what's going on is that this community is elevating and this organization is growing And all of this collaboration takes a massive amount of work. And I'll tell you right now, I mean, I'm hanging on by a thread. If I didn't have Catherine and Virginia and Lauren who work full-time on this, the other person you got to go give a hug to is Ed. All that, I could go around this room. Is Ed here? I can go around this room. We have Jesse over there who's doing a lot of finances. We have Stephanie in here who's doing a lot of the accounting. We have Kevin sneaking out back who does some legal. There's so many people in this room who work hard and take things off our plate so we can take advantage of these other opportunities like policy and advocacy for the benefit of this community. And that's really the point, right? This is a long-term, multi-year project that requires an organization. Like, stop and think about it. If SYNGAP1 did not exist, and no other organization existed, who would Terry Jo call to get samples for her biobank? Nobody, right? This isn't the Mike Show. This is the SYNGAP1 community. The only reason I put myself on the internet every week to blah, blah, blah is so that you guys have a chance to know what's going on. And as you know, there's some weeks when I don't even do that because I'm just too damn tired. And in the old days, I'd be like, this is what I did this week. Yay. And I could keep it all in my head. Some weeks I get to the end of it, I'm like, I don't even know what happened this week. I'll do one next week because it's getting more complicated. And that is a good problem. And then this is my last thought. So I've said a few things. Multi-year project, this is do or die. This is when you jump in, guys. This is when you jump in. Go find the 2 families who live near you, grab their hands, jump in. All in. We have a massive opportunity for the next few years. We can enroll our first disease-modifying trial, and that will lead to many others. Last thought, and I really want to land this one. In case you haven't noticed, you are in this for life. If you want to go start another patient advocacy group, knock yourself out. It's a lot of work. But unless you plan on starting option B, we are in this for life. This is your tribe. You don't have to like everybody here. You don't have, but this is it, guys. Like the school, the adaptive writing program, the ABA program, the whatever it is program you're in, you're like, I love these people, they're helping my child so much. They will kick your child out at some point. Your child's gonna take out the executive director, pull someone's hair, bite someone, bolt, break something. And I'm just thinking about what my son has done in the past year. They are gonna kick you out at some point because Syngapians are the deep end. 0 to 5, they're just cute and adorable, and you're just like, this isn't so bad. 5 to 10, they get a little bigger and a little harder. 10 plus, wheels come off the bus. I'm not supposed to say that to new families, I scare people, but it happens. And if we don't walk in clear-eyed, we can't prepare accordingly, right? Ask Lindsay, ask Marta, ask Catherine, these guys talked earlier, right? This is a really challenging disease. And SYNGAP1 is the only organization that is not going to kick you out when your kid attacks the CEO. I have been attacked twice today. Those families are still here. It's cool. I get it. Right? But seriously, we're in this for life. And again, look at the org chart. Right? I'm the CEO. Virginia's the president. Marta's the clinical director. Catherine's the scientific director. Suzanne's in the board of directors. There's 14 members, 14 other people on the board. Right? This is a patient-run organization, and that means that SYNGAP1 is your organization. So get involved. It takes time to figure out the machine. We have a lot of moving parts. If you don't like what we just did today, and you're like, Mike, you must change everything. You said it was my organization. We're doing it my way today. The answer is no. But if you want to come in and start working with us and start helping us build this and become essential, as Corey has done, as Ed has done, as Jesse has done, as so many of you have done. That's the way. That's the way you get to shape the future of SYNGAP1, which is, for better or worse, shaping the future of your loved one with SYNGAP1. I can say that with a straight face. We are impacting the future of my son and your children. The more we do together, the more impact we have. The more brains we have working together and collaborating, the better that outcome will be. I really believe that. That's why I'm still doing this. So yeah, we're at the end of the beginning. And I just want to end with, good, I'm sort of on time. I want to end with a couple of thoughts. I think this community is looking at about 3 phases that are going to start over the next few years. The first is the behavior phase. So do you remember that GeneDx slide? Did you guys spend time on that demographics chart? You saw that age of current population. That bar was biggest at 6 to 9. That means that in the next few years, that bar is going to become 9 to 12. And at least in my lived experience, that's kind of when the behaviors start. So we really need to start talking about the behaviors, how we manage them, which clinicians we go to, which meds make sense. Trust me, this is not a conversation you want to have alone. And this is something that in the board meeting 2 days ago, I said to the board, what do you want us to work on? And they're like, we want better support from psych. We want people to understand the behaviors and take seriously the behaviors of SYNGAP1. So you're going to be hearing a lot about that in the months ahead. We're going to ask you to do a survey on it, of course. But we, because we are a respected patient advocacy group, are going to go to the doctors, are going to send someone to the psychiatry conference, are going to be asking people, are we going to be picking these data points, I saw some slides this morning, and say, are you paying attention? Are you supporting our families appropriately? Or are our families getting kicked out of school because you haven't understood what our parents are dealing with? So there's a behavior phase coming, and that's something that we need to work on together. The other phase that's happening is the adulting phase. Not in a good adulting way, like Mike's finally adulting, he got a haircut, but in the bad adulting way, like our kids are turning 18, and it's ugly out there. Where are they going to live? Who's their doctor now? How do the meds change? What's going on? A few of our families have been through it, and Marta and Catherine and Lindsay, a number of you have been there, but a lot of us are coming too. And that's something that I think through Cure SYNGAP1 we can work on together to figure out solutions. He's fine, Kevin, just let him go. And then the last trial and the last phase I look forward to is this clinical trial phase that obviously we've beaten to death. But this is a huge moment. The day that our first kid gets an ASO, that's a huge day, guys. That's coming really, really soon. So it is essential that this is when we kind of lock hands and say, how do we work together to make the future better? Because the other options suck. I don't have a better option, and that's what we do every day. And that's why we want you here doing it with us. Because we all love someone with SYNGAP1. We all want a better future. We all want to be able to, I don't want to get too dark. So let's expect a better life. And I think for the rest of today, if there are questions, I'll take them. Hopefully there'll be questions. But after questions, we'll do a photo. And then tonight is just celebration. It's just community. It's just being together. And then on Monday, I'll hit you up for time, money, and blood. Thank you guys so much for being here, and thanks for putting up with this. And are there any questions?
It's not really a question, but I know many of you have seen Nikki's book. If you haven't, and you know of people that want it, it's on Amazon. And I can tell you, would everybody here buy or get a copy of her book, go to your local library, go to your local school, give it to your teachers, and you will see that this will get SYNGAP out to people. The other thing that I really am proud of Nikki, every single day, she has a posting, if you haven't seen it, on Facebook. Jeff, is it Instagram? It's both. Every single day, there's a little video. And that is getting the word out to people that don't know anything about it. Yep. They see this and they see the behavior because Nikki will put it out and show just a tiny clip, but show what they go through, what a family goes through with this. and just kind of saying from there, you know, I'm so happy that she has done all this, but I think that we need to go along and go with her, because this book will take and go a lot of places, believe me.
Yep.
And people will really understand it. So I just wanted to say that because I'm just so proud of her, and I know everybody here would love that book. Okay. So.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great book. And I talked about it in my last pod. And I think just to broaden that, what's amazing about what Nicole has done is she's figured out what she's great at, which is communicating and social media, and she's cranking on all cylinders. And that's kind of what I want, really what I want to do is, I want Cure SYNGAP1 to become everyone's hobby in the way that makes sense, right? Ed apparently likes to project manage for a hobby, and he's really good at it. That's what he does. Nicole posts like crazy. It's amazing. Corey talks for hours to people she doesn't know. I love it. Like, what we need is we need people to find what makes their heart sing and to do it with Cure SYNGAP1.
Hi. So I just wanted to question, what do you think is the biggest hurdle in trying to get families to sign up for these natural history studies? Like, why is that still such a push? And you know, you've still got to encourage people so heavily, you know, like, you look around the room here and there's so many families here and there seems to be so much activity, but then we're still pushing for families to sign up for a natural history study. What do you think it is? Why? Or what could we do
That's a good question.
better?
I think there's three things. One is people may not fully appreciate the importance of it, right? That this is an opportunity to define the natural history of Syngap. I mean, that Ingrid Scheffer paper from 2019, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that damn bar chart today. Like, and that was the original, that was the OG natural history study. And that bar chart won't go away. It is ugly. There's so many better ways she could have done it, you know? And yet it's on every slide about Syngap. But my point is, like, that's how long-lived these papers are, right? So right now, we are making a natural history study that will define Syngap for the next decade, if not longer. And I don't think people appreciate that. That's number one. Number two, normal people work, put money on the table, feed their families, and are holding it together. And we're asking them to take 2 days off work, travel with a kid who doesn't like to travel, and go and get poked and prodded and put up with a lot of nonsense. And then go home and fill out a bunch of surveys. It is a lift. And this is a small fraction of the Syngap families in America. A lot of people cannot fathom going away to a conference like me. So I think that's two. Just the logistical burden is not trivial. And then number three, cold hard cash. Some people, that's an expense. And we are going to up our support on the cold hard cash side because we really need to make sure that this study happens. But that's my answer. Yeah? Say more. Yeah, four is there's people out there who haven't heard about it, which is why we have to keep banging. I mean, I know this group is sick of hearing about it, but Catherine's right. Like, what's interesting about this population is it's always growing. And in the early days, the OGs, we kind of knew, okay, you've been around for 2 years, you've been around for 1 year, Danny's been around forever, okay, we get it. And now it's like, I can barely keep track. Like, I almost want everyone's name tag to have, like, kid's age, me, when we were diagnosed, genotype. Like, I'd love a little cheat sheet on everyone's name tag, but Lauren said no. Yeah.
More of that could happen, like Cure SYNGAP1 will push individual neurologists and clinicians to do all that when you go for your visit and then shoot it off to shop or whatever. I'm not sure if that's possible.
Let me tell you why that's the best joke I've heard all day. I've been subjected to a lot of bad jokes. So what, no, really, Ingo is having a dad joke face. It would be amazing, Sarah. So what Sarah just said is, why don't we have more neurologists be like Ingrid, do all the assessments on the spot and fire it off to CHOP? So first of all, Ingrid is one of the most famous child neurologists in the world. There are not a lot of Ingrids out there. Second of all, the battery of tests that we subject people to in Promise have to be administered by a neuro, an OT, a PT, blah, 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 blah. Third of all, we are working with we are paying Stanford and Colorado Children's both north of $150,000 a year for the clinical coordinator, the clinical space, and the stuff they can't charge to insurance to do these trials. This stuff is expensive. And in spite of paying them, working with them, and being at this for almost 2 years, we are almost done with the data use agreements that allow Stanford and CHOP to give each other the data. So like, the levels of complexity are utterly mind-numbing. But that's what's required to get data that they can then say is IRB approved and published, so that every doctor in the world is going to understand SYNGAP better. And that's why I'm really focused on that 12 to 16 gap, because I still think it is underappreciated by the medical community how burdensome behaviors are in the early teens. And one of the ways we're going to address that is by, come hell or high water, getting those teens in that, and you're like, I can't take my kid. They're going to bite the clinician, they're going to run down the hall, they're going to break everything. Yes, it's exactly what I want. Put it all in the notes, get it in the paper, right? Go ugly, get them in there. The world has to understand. There's no reason parents are the only people who would put up with this. Other questions?
I have a general question. My son's only 1, so we don't have these behaviors yet. But I'm in my psych NP currently. And a big thing with psych and meds and a lot of kids just in general, we've been doing a lot of DNA testing to find out what med works best for psychiatric patients. And I'm wondering if any parents or anybody has ever thought to even think about that for our SYNGAP kids, because my plan is I'm swabbing my son's as soon as he starts with stuff to see what works best for him for his DNA.
Yes. So we have a world-class genetic counselor standing in the back of the room. So please feel free to correct what I'm about to say, but go to your clinician tomorrow and ask for pharmacogenomics. And I'll tell you why. And all this is it looks, and again, unless you might want to cover your ears for this, because it's going to be sort of an amateurish description, but it looks at the genes that help our body metabolize drugs, and it helps us anticipate which drugs we're going to metabolize slowly, meaning maybe we need less, and which drugs we metabolize fast, meaning we need more because the regular dose isn't going to do it. The reason this matters is if your child has SYNGAP, there is a very high probability they are going to be on SSRIs, antidepressants, antipsychotics, behavioral drugs. And your pharmacogenomics, your pharmacogenetics is unlikely to change. It's not, nothing's for certain, but it's not going to change in your life, basically. You do this to them once, you know their PGX for the rest of your life, and you can use that. And I pulled up Tony's PGX from 6 years ago when I was talking to my doctor about which drug to give him. And it informed the decision between Seroquel and risperidone because he's a better anyway. Yes, so 110%, I have said it before, PGX for every family. If your doctor won't write it and your insurance won't pay for it, private pay is coming in around a few $100, I think. It's not cheap. But in the long run, if anyone's ever given a kid a med and they lost their mind and your doctor's like, that's not normal, it's worth it. So yeah, just Google PGX. Other questions? In the back.
How's it going? Not a SYNGAP parent, but I'm here to share my research, and I've really enjoyed meeting up with parents and their children, and it's been incredibly inspiring. But more importantly, it's allowed me to see what is being prioritized, and that's informed the way that I think about my research and my science. So I'm curious, is there a way to keep that bridge between families and the researchers more frequent than this annual meeting that you have? Is there any line of communication that is more consistent throughout the year?
Yes.
Is there infrastructure for that?
Yeah, it's info@curesyngap1.org. So I am amazed at the number of postdocs I've met who have years of experience with a mouse with SYNGAP who've never met a human with SYNGAP. It is almost funny, right? And so if you're a researcher and you want to better understand the disease, call us, we'll talk to you. If you're a researcher and you want to meet a Syngapian, call us and we will call the Syngapians near you and see if you want to see if your lab is Syngap proof, let's find out. We just need you to sign a waiver, we're not paying for it. And honestly, to the Syngap families, I encourage you, if you live near a clinician or a research hospital, be like, do you want to meet a Syngap, How do we help your team understand to this? Like, offer them whatever it takes, because your question is a beautiful question. What's crazy about this disease is that we're on our own, guys. We are the cavalry. So it's on us to do things. It's on us to reach out to the researchers. It's on us to reach out to the clinician. This crazy guy standing right here, now he's especially, he's Justin special. But when he was diagnosed, before I talked to him, he had Googled Syngap. He found out about a guy who was working on something, and he's like, so I went to UC Davis and I just walked around and I tried to get into the building so I could get to his lab. And this is, I want to be clear, this is not what I'm asking you to do. I have told Justin not to do that again, especially with that researcher, but he got it all, he's got like a B- on that one. Like, finding the local researchers, connecting with them, making sure that the labs have met the humans, because they know the mice, they know the fish, they know the frogs, they know the flies, but they don't know the humans. And that's hugely important. So yeah, reach out. We want to know as many of you as possible. There was a question over.
I'll just do a quick plug for the podcast too, for the clinicians that want to know more about Syngap and how it affects us as families. We've done a couple of podcasts, or there's a podcast series that you can listen to as well that's on Spotify and all of the mainstream podcasts uploads, so that you can get a real sense of the daily interactions with Syngapians there.
Yeah, there's 3 podcasts. There's my weekly briefing, Cure Syngap1 podcast. There's Syngap Stories, which is what Kari's talking about, which is 2 parents interviewing each other, which is amazing. And there's Café Syngap1, which is in Spanish, which I think is Café Syngap, sorry. And it's amazing. I think it's, and hopefully we're going to have a French podcast soon, right? And then Beata does like a driving around podcast in Polish. We have resources. If anyone wants to do a podcast, I'm a big fan. I'm happy to start another one. Anyone else? All right, let's take a picture. Let's get ready for dinner.